everyone, and welcome to our inspirational base series. I'm Twix2, I make videos with equal play, and we built this garden together. So we timed this video to release on Valentine's Day, and we wanted a romantic build, which was this romantic garden. As you can see, this garden is rather large, so it's not a starter base. So I wouldn't say it would necessarily fit into our starter base series, although we did build this within a week, so it is possible. It's just hard. It's much bigger than we perhaps imagined, but our builds are always bigger than we imagined. But as you can see, it fulfills the inspiration and the ideas that I mentioned last week. If you didn't see that video, go check it out. It's a video where we gather the materials and get ready in order to build this amazing build. So let's get started and see how we put this build together. So I started this build with where you start any build really. I prepared the area. This meant I had to flatten areas or build up areas. So I built a tunnel and a cave for the portal entrance. So the tunnel also goes right through to the other side of the mountain, so that if you were walking along you could also access the secret garden. But if we were ever going to visit, we're going to do it by the nether, so the nether portal was important. I wanted that to be hidden but accessible, so I built this cave around it. And then I had to flatten the rest of the area just to provide an easy base to plan out the build and to build from, because the Minecraft terrain was quite uneven. So that was the easy bit of the garden. Next, I had to work out a vague shape. When you've got a big area like this, it's difficult to know where to start. So I started where I always do, with shape. I laid out some paths and some vague ideas of where the bigger areas might go and the type of shape the terrain might take once I'd finished. With an organic build, it's hard to plan fully, but laying out at least a basic area helps to break up the whole area and make it a little bit easier. Otherwise, it's really difficult to just know where to start, which I still suffered with after this. So even after laying out the shape, I didn't actually really know where to start and what to do next. I had this big idea in my head, and with big ideas, it's hard to kind of focus in on the details of what you need to do. So I decided to build some trees, because gardens are going to need trees. And building custom trees was actually one of my Minecraft New Year's resolutions, because I don't do it very often. I don't really like doing it, partly because it's really difficult, but also partly by the time you get to the end of a build and you're doing trees, it's just hard work to then build trees. So this is one of my first attempts at building custom trees. I did do a little bit of a practice in creative mode, and that was going quite well, so I kind of did that builder thing of going, oh yeah, I got this, I can build trees. And so then I moved into survival, and it is so much harder in survival mode. A tree that might take 5 or 10 minutes in survival mode was taking me 30-40 minutes for a medium-sized tree, which is just a lot of time. But to do this, I kind of started with the trunk to work out the size and height of the tree, and then I added branches to add shape. I worked out that getting the shape right of the branches is the most important part, because it makes placing the leaves and making a natural looking tree much easier. So partly because the trees were taking so long to build, I moved on to making smaller trees just using fence posts and leaves. These were much easier to do, so I did quite a few of those. Although it didn't take me long to get bored of building trees, so I figured I needed to move on and build something else, because the garden had to be more than just trees. So I built a tree. Although this tree was different, once I built the trees, I still realised I didn't have an idea of what I should do next, so I decided that the garden needed a focal point I could really focus on and build, and then would help shape the rest of the garden. So I decided to build a big tree. A tree that was big enough to either have a tree house in, or you could climb the trunk, or you could dig down into the roots, somewhere that could fit storage. So that's what I did. To build this, I started with some simple shapes. So I started with a simple trunk shape that was really quite flat and looked awful, but it helped me get the size right of the tree. And then I was able to take away blocks, add a little bit of shape here and there, just to get that natural shape of a trunk. And then I added the branches, which also helped shape the tree further. And I spent a lot of time on this bit, because this was the bit that was going to help the tree look most natural. So I used a lot of fence posts as well as logs to make the branches. This is because when you look at a branch, it starts thick and then ends up quite thin, and then you get the twigs at the end. And in Minecraft, you don't really have that kind of size definition to deal with, but spruce fences and oak logs work really, really well together for this. So that's what I used, and I think I was quite pleased with the shape in the end, and it made it much easier for me to add the leaves. And although the tree isn't perfect, I'm really quite pleased with it for one of my first attempts at building a big tree like this. So that I decided that the tree should be set in a meadow, which was great news for me because it meant I could use the best block in the game, moss. Moss and bone meal just transform any dull area into something that looks amazing with really minimal effort. And I used this all around the tree, added in a little bit of path and a little bit of other texture on the ground actually underneath the tree, but most of this is just moss, bone meal and a bit of grass, and then obviously flowers. I added flowers, I hold a whole variety of flowers, and I hid lighting under moss carpets so that the area is lit up without having to have torch spam everywhere. But luckily for me, building a focal point actually did work out as I planned. It helped me to shape the rest of the garden and get an idea in my head about where everything else would go. I still wasn't really focused on the little details because to me getting the shape right first was the most important thing. So I had a list of the type of things I wanted to include, and I knew one of these things was a waterfall and a river. So that's where I built next. I just headed up to the nearest mountain and dropped some water down until it gave me the right kind of shape that I was looking for. Again, this isn't perfect, but it did a pretty good job, and it definitely did it well enough for me. So then I dug out my river, dug out a little bit of a pond at the end, filled it with water. To make the riverbanks, I used a bit of a mixture of moss, grass, podsol and coarse dirt just to give that riverbank feel to it, and that worked really well. While I was building that, I found a small natural cave in the side of the cliff, so I decided to use that because I had an idea of what I could put in there. So I built a path and a cute little bridge leading up to it for later use. So even though I'd done this and I'd built all these things, this still left a lot of garden to fill, so Eep logged on to help me break it up into smaller areas because this was still quite an overwhelming size, but just laying out walls and paths really helped break up the garden even further and added more shape so that we could only focus on one small area at a time. It was Eep's idea and it was really helpful. So once we'd done that, I got to work on the largest area, which would be the farming part of the garden. Crop farms can be fairly dull to look at if you're not careful, so I decided to use the landscape that was there and plant the crops into the terrain that was already there, and I decided to add a greenhouse. The greenhouse was really, really cute. It just used warped wood and light grey glass, which were colours that worked really well together and worked for the garden as a whole. The greenhouse itself doesn't have a lot of use. It does have an interior, which is really cute. Eep built that and I love it. The main reason it's there is to give that area context and helped add interest to the area, so that it can be in a practical area as well as pretty. So at this point we're getting quite far into the week and time's running short to get this video out in time. So Eep and I both got to work together and we spent all day building. This is where Eep and I differ, in that I tend to focus much more on the build as a whole and the big picture of the build, and she's much better at focusing on small details and small areas. So we worked with our strengths, and she worked on all of the gardens and the seating areas and all of that, while I built a whole lot of walls and paths. So we felt the walls and the paths were fairly important to this build because we wanted, as you walked through, to give it that feel that you didn't know what was around the corner, so you couldn't see over the walls. It was quite important. It was at this point we really started to focus in on the practical idea of the base as well as the pretty, because the idea of this is it still has to be a functional base. So we've got the large farm, but we wanted to make sure it had storage and animal areas, and we even managed to fit an enchanting table area in there. So it has everything you would need. It even has one very important part of a base, which is a mine. But rather than do a traditional Minecraft mine shaft where you dig right down, we actually decided to make use of a massive cave system that's right underneath us, and there's this big cave opening at the one end of the garden. So I built a walkway down to the caves with a lot of storage and a little cute camping area, so you can easily get down into the caves, but it very quickly becomes unsafe from there. The final thing I did was just to take my faith and bone meal all of the areas that surround the garden, so that there was no area that was full of torch spam. It was all lit up using moss carpets and hidden torches, but it all looked pretty even though it wasn't technically part of the garden. I didn't want this amazing garden in the middle and then all of this torch spam and nothing outside of it. So all of the outside has also been terraformed and landscaped a little, just so that it fits into the whole theme of the garden. And then we have a garden all finished and ready. So let's log on with Eep and go and have a look. So we're finished.
Yay, we're all done.
I didn't think we were going to at one point.
Yes, this is very much the 11th hour. I'm off to bed. So I'm very, very pleased with this build. Should we go have a look?
Yeah, so this is where we would come out of the portal. And this is the first thing you see.
Yay! Oh, it's so pretty and musical. And you only destroyed an entire geode for that section.
Entire one. The bits that grow the amethyst still exist.
And then, oh wow. It's you come into this wonderful little grove.
Yeah, so I think that was the idea of this, is that I want you to come out of feeling like you'd been like in a tunnel and you were coming out into this amazing natural place.
Yeah, and you can just see the snow mountains in the background there. It's just amazing. Oh, your custom trees are brilliant.
They're okay. They're coming along.
Yeah,
I'm improving.
You always say that about your stuff. It's like, there's a brilliant and amazing, wonderful, and you're like, meh, it's alright. Take a compliment. I really like the enclosed feel that you get. It's like secret and cute and cozy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a secret garden, so it's meant to feel secret and cozy, and like you don't know what's around the next corner.
No.
That's kind of the feel that I wanted.
We've definitely achieved that. Which way round are we going? So here we've got a little picnic area, so you can come and have some lunch. Just cute little spaces. And we've got the greenhouse.
I'm very pleased with the greenhouse.
Yeah, it's such a cute colour.
Yeah.
And you go through it. Look, you've got all their little plants all in their little pots everywhere, and all the hanging things. Look.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I really like it. You did an amazing job on the interior.
Thank you. Yeah, I shoved some plants in there.
So we did put some practical things in this build as well.
Yep, this is the reading nook. All the wonderful colours of farm.
Yeah, so I'm growing beetroot, not because you need beetroot, but just because it looks really cool in a farm.
It does look pretty.
And then we've got a little Valentine's Day heart seating area.
Yeah, it's the little love heart.
Joker. So yeah, this is kind of modelled after those, we go on those walks around country house estate gardens and stuff, where there's just around every corner something new to look at.
Yeah, like an axolotl pond. Axolotls.
And then we have the meadow.
We're in the meadow.
At
with
night.
This amazing custom tree. Yeah, I may do something about the night, because otherwise phantoms.
Yes, I built a big tree in the beginning, in the middle, because felt like it needed a centre point for the garden.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So how was your custom tree coming along?
It's alright, it's a bit mushroomy. But it's
Quite
not bad.
like that bushy topped look, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so do I, which is why I keep doing it. Like, I keep on thinking, I'll do it a bit more sparse, a bit more branch than leaf this time. Then every time I just go, no, I want more leaves. All of the leaves.
And then, so inside, you've got up here. Got grindstone. And you've got your little brewing area around here. This is stand in for another wart. This is where you'd be growing a little bit.
You could also make this into a bit of a
barrels.
platform if you wanted to. There's plenty of space to actually build a little tree house up here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I kind of like this peering out through the leaves and being able to see into the garden below. It's quite cool.
And then you have the actual storage with bed.
Yes.
And look who we found!
King Jeffrey!
Yay! So yeah, this is the functional bit all hidden away.
Yeah, so this is the storage, and the feel was kind of like that that you go down to the roots of the tree and you just put all your barrels where you can fit within the roots.
And a four-poster bed.
And a bed in the middle of the room.
Yes. You've got a pagoda over here.
Yeah, there's more. Another little...
Again, a bit more storage.
We didn't go to Turtle Cave.
You have to go to Turtle Cave. Over your little bridge.
More rabbits. into Turtle Cave.
And then Turtle Cave with the turtles. It is like a proper secret garden with all these little nooks and crannies and secrets.
Yeah, so you know that one garden we went to with had all the caves and the little secret grottos in it? I think this is very much modelled after that.
Oh, it's a cute little area, that. But yeah, it's a lovely little Valentine's secret garden area. So we hope that the other nomads come and visit it and see what they think. So yeah, really happy with this. What do you guys think? What sort of things would you want to see in a secret garden? Pop it in the comments below.
Yes, let us know what you think. And if you did like the video, we would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already, then consider subscribing.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.